Are you ready to save our kids? If children are the living messages that we send to a time that we will not see, Save Our Kids is an opportunity for you to be introduced to a few school and student helpers that will support each child's individual journey. If there is a space or a place to improve the lives of our children, we know a few families and business owners who have made it their business to answer the call for help and provide a solution to those quietly discussed challenges that impact our children and eventually us all. We could not just choose one kiddo to save, so we are asking for your help to reach more. Join Keeping Your Kids Safe as we identify some of the problems and share a few solutions that have been created just for you.
Oh, I put myself on the wrong thing. Hello, ladies. How are you today?
Good. How
Hello.
are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. A little bit of stuff, little bit congestion, but we're just here because it's important for us to be here. And I'm excited because finally, you guys get to come and talk about your book and what you're doing, because that is what I've been trying to get you guys here, but it's been a little challenging. So our schedules would allow for the other one, but now today we're actually going to focus on you. So, yay, I'm excited. So let's see. Hi, Sindal. How are you? Welcome to the party.
Whoop, whoop.
All right. So, like as always, let's get started a little bit like this. All right. So, what I'm gonna say is that I always give the stats and the information for everyone to take a look at. And so, one of the things I want to acknowledge is that Autism Awareness Month, right? So, this is the month, and with that blue, the autism awareness, all the blue lights will go up, and all of the support people will come out and ask for all of those donations. We have information about that as well. The other thing I want to say is we love our teachers. Okay, it doesn't matter all the things that we say and do and things like that. Our teachers are part of our community, and it's extremely important to know this platform is not set up so that we are here to destroy, take down, or make people feel bad about the jobs that they're doing. What we're saying is that based on the information and the numbers, we know that you need help. The only way for you to get help is for us to be able to support you and let you know that we hear you and we see you and we understand that we do need to support you better. So, as always, I'd like to let you know there's about 4 million teachers here in the United States that teach about 90,000 schools across the United States, with approximately 50 million children going to school. You guys are outnumbered. You need help. 55% of you want to quit. That lets you know that what's happening right now is not favorable or something that you want to continue. You're looking for other opportunities and ways to get out. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as that, right? Because we still do need teachers. So with 55% of you wanting to quit, I'm going to venture and say we need to do something different. I believe in the model that says that parent 1 is at home, parent 2 is at school. That's a co-parenting relationship, and your bonus parent is a community. All of those together will give us a healthy child, a healthy student, and a healthy member of our society. So if we take a look, if your school district has 180 school days, your children are at school for 1,260 hours in that year. That does not count for the time that they have to go elsewhere because of the parents not being able to be there because their work day is longer than their school day. So if you think about it, you have to figure out a co-parenting relationship. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in challenging situations. We have learned that we have special education at 7.3 million children out of the 50 million that go to school. That is significant, and that becomes a problem. And I have lots of great things to talk about today because I had a privilege to go and visit a school that showed me a different way of doing things. And man, wait until we hear about that. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and introduce our guest today, Christine Jones. I want you to come on up and tell people who you are and what you're about, because I think you are amazing.
Well, thank you, Tabitha. Thank you for having me here today. And I'm glad I was able to participate because usually I am teaching during this time. So I was able to hop on, and sometimes like during my break time, I can like hop on for a couple of minutes and give a thumbs up or something like that. But now I can join you for longer. So I've been teaching for 30 plus years, and I have my background in special education and general education, and I'm a parent for 3 children, and I enjoy learning and growing in my field and helping others think outside of the box to be able to help their children and to be able to help other teachers with preventing burnout, as well as taking a look at the dynamics between home and school and building that bridge between the two with creative solutions and ideas. So then that way we can best help our students and give them the best support and best chance for success.
Should probably unmute myself. That's pretty good. I like that. And the fact that you want to bridge the gap between home and school. That's kind of what we're here to talk about today, because that is something very significant. And it's time for us to do that, because this is a, first of all, it can be a lonely road, but it can be also very frustrating. So I'm glad you were able to join us today. Welcome
Thank
to
you.
spring break.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Kristen, Norai.
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. I am Kristen Lynn Norai, and I am the founder of Inclusion Advocates and Allies, in addition to working with Christine on our new ventures. We will be talking more in detail about that in a minute, with the bridging the gap between home and school and how we envision doing that. But I had the pleasure to co-author a book with her last year, and it has turned into so much more than just a book. It's just become a very unique project that's going to really change the future of education looking forward. And that's something I'm super excited about. Otherwise, I'm just super glad to be here. Thank you for having me. Awesome.
Okay. So again, we know that what did we figure out? We figured out that autism shows that 1 in 36 children are now diagnosed with autism. And it used to be heavily on the boys, but now you're noticing that, first of all, it's a lot heavy into the families. Like, you'll have multiple children in the same family with autism, unlike what they said before. So before we really dive into this, I want to give out a special thanks to our friends at Helpopedia. Helpopedia is always one of those groups that are out there to help you. So if you have an autistic or a special needs child and you need a little bit more support, go ahead and scan that QR code and connect with those folks over there. They're here to help you with your planning for your college, for your average student, as well as helping you to bridge the gap in your special ed spaces. The other thing is, if you can just do me a favor and what did I say? If I can stop moving those icons, that will work out. Go ahead and scan that QR code and like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You'll get more of the all of the episodes, and you can rewatch, replay things over there. Send us comments. We always love those. And then, so let's dig in. Here's my thing. I'm gonna say, let's see if this will work. This is not working in my favor. Anyway, let's try it anyway. Okay, so I had the opportunity to go and visit this school, man, down in North Carolina. Scan that QR code and give a donation. This is the thing about this. I went to visit them, and for the first time, I seen happy children, happy staff. I had 100% of the staff said they would not leave. They would have to drag them out of the school.
Wow.
The kids were happy. The kids were laughing, giggling. They were leaning into what they would naturally do as children, and no one was sitting there fussing and all this other things at them. They enjoyed their learning. The classrooms were smaller, which actually allowed for a little bit more. But I witnessed like something called March Madness, or they were able to, it's like mathletes, and they were just going at it. And it was so, I can honestly say it brought me to tears, because what I witnessed was what I did not know. I knew was possible, but could never experience it for myself until last week. And I seen parents hugging teachers. I seen parents coming to be a part of something. That means that the model that I talk about all the time when I say that it takes a village to do this. We all, it's all of us. We have to have home, school, and a community to build healthy children. And they proved it, and they've been doing it for over 30 years and are not getting the credit. I did not like what I noticed, which was they did such great things, and they're not necessarily getting the credit. They have a lot of enrollment into college. Like I think it's almost 100% actually go on to college, but all of them graduate, right? And they go and they're much stronger and healthier humans to join the force. And then they're independent thinkers, and they like coming to school. Their mindset is different. They start their day. This part I love to death. It enter a contract every single day that says, I, as a student, agreed to do X, Y, and Z. And there was a list of things that they agreed to do. And they acknowledged that out loud. But guess what? The teachers also had to acknowledge their part in it as well. And they actually went in and they said, and I agree to provide you X, Y, and Z, right? And so what that told me was education is a partnership. That's what I've been saying this whole entire time. It's a partnership. We have our children for 18 years if we're fortunate. The world has them for the rest of their lives. And that is greater than the 18 years that they spend with us at first. So if we do not provide them with the right information to move forward, how are they going to be successful in their lives? So when I met this team of teachers, we're going to have an opportunity to work with them. I was like, I'm going to scream from the rooftops. You guys cannot be kept this secret any longer, because they support so many, and even the little ones were so happy to be there. They were not disrespectful. They spoke eye contact. They were very kind, very respectful. And I was like in awe. And they had all these offerings. Now, when you go to the school, this is what you're probably going to see. And this is part of our conversation today. Just because we do things differently doesn't mean that we should be graded poorly. This school is doing it, and the scores actually show it. But the way that they do the scoring, it makes it look like the school is failing. The school has results that other schools do not have. Therefore, they are not failing our children. They are not failing our scholars. They're not failing our students. They're actually providing them a way forward. And until we get better at this, we're going to continue to have a problem. So that's part of what our conversation is about today, because you two ladies said, okay, I'm in a classroom and you guys suck. I don't have any support. And so you decided to create this book. So tell everybody a little bit about this book and why you chose to do it.
You want to go first, Christine?
Sure. So it really started off, it was after we were on, was it CJ's show? I think it was CJ's show. And we met after that, and we were like, there's got to be something that we can do in education that hasn't been looked at, or some way that we can improve it. And so we were talking, like taking a look at the parent end of it. And then we looked for a Venn diagram. So Kristen and I were both trying to search for one, and neither one of us could find a Venn diagram between these responsibilities between home and school. So in education, a Venn diagram is pretty much like the essential part that teachers do, or academia in this field. So it would be readily available for us to look at. So we were like, this is what we have to do. So we knew that we were going to do that part of it, which was a Venn diagram. And then we have the different cells. Do you have your book, Kristen, or do you want me to go ahead and show it?
I don't have mine.
Okay, I'll show it. So with that, we were like, oh, because both of us have, how many years of experience, Kristen, do we have?
Over 55 years combined experience.
So over 55 years of experience, we're like, oh, we'll just write down a couple of ideas. Well, it wasn't until we met with Mike and, you want to tell me some more people that we met with? Because obviously Raquel and some other people, we were like, oh, we just had a few things. They're like, oh, this is kind of complex. They're like, you need a table of contents or something. And we looked at it. We're like, well, it can't be that bad.
Not that hard.
I'll show you the table of contents in a minute, because we were totally, here we go. There's that. And we're like, it can't be that hard to follow. And then we started putting down like everything that we did. It was really amazing. So that is the Venn diagram. And then this right here is the cells that it goes along with. If you can, there we go. It's hard to twist it for the camera, but there's the cells. And then the table of contents is here, first page. So there's a lot of information. And then the second page, and I'm going to tell you, this is like the tip of the iceberg of what we can do. And I was told that there's the other page. So we have a lot. There we go. It's hard to adjust this thing. Anyway, because it's like it's a mirror. So I'm like challenged. Anyway, so we did that. And then I don't even remember where I was going with that. Now I have a bit just escaped my poor brain.
You're talking about the parent focus group we had that came in, and we thought it was all very clear for the parents. And then they looked at it and went, this is way too much. This is too much information.
Yeah.
And too many questions that they had. And so we had to pare it down so much more. I think Christine and I would agree that writing the book was the easy part. It was the editing process and the getting it ready and formatting it and the rest of it and the publishing process that was the tough part. It was, it made sense to us when we wrote it. It was when we asked others to read it and explain that they went, you need a little more here or a little less there, or, whatever it might've been.
I think too, what Kristen said too, we wanted to have parsimony with it. So putting it back to the simplest terms so parents could understand. Yeah. And the problem is that we've had 55 years of experience between the two of us. So we were really trying to simplify it so it would be a nice, easy read for parents, that parents could take this book and automatically open up the pages and be able to implement it all in once. And then I ended up sharing it with somebody that is in the education field, and she does parenting part. She's like, oh, my stuff is all piecemeal. This book right here exceeded her parental expectations and just like what would suffice for her curriculum. So then we realized we have, hence our book, Homeschool Connections. So we're going to be launching our parenting classes first, getting those nice and strong, making sure that we have a real strong scope and sequence. And then what we're going to be doing is offering schools that the same class, but with a twist on education. So then that way it'll be able to be bridged like this. So the teachers will understand what the parents are doing and how they can support that, and the reasons why it's so important for them to have that crossover, that bridge with parents. Because we, like you said, we cannot do it alone, Tabitha. It takes a village.
Yeah. We just spoke about that this morning on our new show that we had that kicked off, and I actually quoted you, Tabitha. I gave you credit for it. And I said, parent one is at the parent two is school, and parent three is your community. And that's the order it goes in. You need all of them to succeed. So I do love that.
How many of us have really actually, so we can contribute our community and each one of our parents being able to match the right school. So I'll give you an example. I grew up in a household of creatives. If anybody knows me, I am creative in a different way. I'm not creative in the arts and crafts and the design work and things like that. So I am not the artist, right? But I am creative in my own right. But being in that space where you have a lot of singers and a lot of people play instruments and to draw and do those things, it really started to do, it can do some things to you if you don't have some place to put your talents, right? But my mom, I have to say, was extremely instrumental in my education, because she realized that where I was going to be sent for school was not going to be favorable for me. She wanted me to have a better education. So for all those families who say, well, I don't know how that's possible, my mom said, okay, I do not wish for you to go to this school. So I am going to make it possible for you to go to a school that's going to better feed you what you need to have. So she moved us and she put me in a different school. And then when it was time for me to go to high school, she did the same thing. And we enrolled into what they would consider a magnet program. And I went through a magnet program and I did not do the mainstream classes. I went into a higher part of that education. That is letting you know, parents, you have an option. My mom made a decision for me, and it was one of the best educational decisions she made for me, because my brother and sister were on their trajectory based on what their gifts were, but now she had to place me on mine. Parents need to be part of building that. They can't just sit there and say, well, the school said. The school says a lot of things, but that doesn't mean we always have to abide by that. If they're not feeding your child or your student or your scholar the way you want them to feed them, and if they're not receiving, your children are not coming home challenged to learn more and want to do more, you have the wrong partner. That educational institution. And first of all, let's talk about these doggone words. When I went and looked at it and I said educational institution, what on good earth are we talking about? What is an institution? Why are we associating that with education? And then you wonder why children don't want to go to school. Okay, it's an opportunity to learn and to be greater than what you are, from yesterday. But if you're saying, let's go into this institution, I'm not going there. So why are we expecting these kids to do that? We have got to choose better words in communicating with our little ones, because that's why they're like, oh, no, I don't want to do that because that's not fun for me, But I just feel like we do need to be better. My community helped me because when I was getting in trouble, they called my mom. Right? Ding dong ditch, kicking over trash cans, going over here and doing what we're not supposed to be doing. But that part of the community helped to keep me and my brother and sister, my cousins, out of jail, out of situations that weren't going to be favorable for us for our long term. Again, our job as parents is we're just supposed to make sure that they survive. We need to keep them alive until they're 18. Now, anything after that, it's a bonus.
You done exceeded yourself if you get past 18.
Past 18, I'm like, yes, man, we made it. Right? I like what Oily says. He was like, school is such a charged word. But again, it's easy to see greener grass elsewhere rather than to question existing spaces. Now, but here's the thing. Sometimes I love the fact that you said that, but sometimes the grass being greener on the other side is the answer to actually plant your own grass in your backyard.
Yes.
You do not always have to run, because with me and Christine are going to talk about this another time. We do not need to be part of white flight, right? We need to be part of the solution that says we don't like where we are right now. Mm-hmm. So what do we need to do to improve that? So it's let's plant some grass. Let's plant a tree. I love the fact that we see these little libraries. How many little libraries you have over there?
They're everywhere in North Carolina.
I'm in Texas, and they're everywhere down there. And in PA, where I currently am, I see them on. I think I've seen them on like every street, and I've seen one that has 3 tiers.
Oh wow, we don't have no. So Kristen will have to go on a little adventure. So Kristen is staying with me. So we shall count our little libraries in our city.
Yeah,
that would be interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. How many have you seen, Kristen?
I don't know. I have a number that I have seen.
Yeah. So what number would that be?
0 so far.
Oh, that's terrible.
We're going to go look for them. We're going to find some.
Yeah, we're going to go on a field trip.
Yes.
If you don't see them, you should probably look to put one up. But
I didn't even know they were doing them.
I just seen. Oh, I'm gonna start taking pictures then, because there's one at the top right here at the top of the corner, and I actually put books in it, so it's good, and that's why. Okay, so Phil Vetrano, hey Phil, has a question for you, ladies.
Yes, I see this. I think it's a great question. First of all, Phil, I think it varies depending upon the kid's needs, but it really is not anything that should take any more time than normal parenting takes. And Christine, you can tell me if you disagree or if you think that it would be more. I think that, if we're implementing, with fidelity, the different parts that we have in our book, parents can pick and choose how they want to do that. They don't have to do all of it at one time. They could focus on one section of our book for a period of time and build upon that until they have a comfortable level, of amount of time. Because I know that is the immediate response is I don't have time for that. So I think, have really pared it down to make it so that it isn't too overwhelming to parents, in terms of bite-sized amounts to give them, and not have them feel so overwhelmed.
So I'm going to go ahead and piggyback off of what you said. So I would suggest it's really not about like time. Like Kristen said, you could use it as a smorgasbord and complete the activities. So we have like stepping stones. So like if you're trying behaviors and we give you the morning and nightly routines to try, and you're finding that your children are having behaviors and you're recording it, you're like, I don't know what to do next. We have that next step. So sometimes you're like, oh, my child has down pat the morning and night routine. So I know I could skip that step, but I could tap into like incentives or tracking behavior. So it's pretty simplistic. So it's not like a regular kind of notebook. So I'll just kind of like throw it up here. So then that way you can see how easy it's to read. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Sort of. Okay. So it's pretty easy to read. And that's how each section is. It's actionable and doable. So, and then we have, I'll just go ahead and just throw up something else just so you can kind of see. So that way there's an example for the child to fill out. And then there's stuff for older children. And then there's calming area activities. So if your child needs a calming area, then you could tap into that. There's a behavior chart for more like early, like later on in elementary. So that's just like a sneak peek. There's parent pro tips. So you're like, I've got this, but how could I extend this a little bit further? So I'm going to tell you that this, and I remembered what I was forgetting. So this is, if you think of an iceberg, this is at the tip of the iceberg, the most simplistic that we could do, and for the most impact because it covers so many areas. Our parenting class will cover more in depth. So when you look at this, you're going to go, oh, well, I don't need to take that parenting class. But yes, you do. If you think you need it, and even if you don't, you'll need it, because Krista and I have already started our lesson plans for those. And so we're making it so it's education friendly, so that way you'll be able to utilize some of the terms that are used in education, and you can say, hey, what about my tier, what do you do for tier 1 instruction? So is my child in, what is my child's tier 2? What group are they in? Can you tell me about, or is my child receiving tier 3 interventions? And if so, what are they receiving the interventions for? Or if you're like, gosh, my child needs more help, you can say, hey, is my child receiving tier 3 interventions? And if they say no, you say, why not?
Right.
So there's a lot that our program will cover. And so I don't know if you want to add anything more, Kristen, to that.
I think you nailed that very well. And I love Ollie chimed in and said the book's like a buffet. You don't have to buy the whole pharmacy or all the herbs that you're.
Hey, Ollie.
And I love that. That is such a great way of describing. I think if a parent looks through and says, oh, wow, I need all of this, then that definitely is going to tell us that they're going to want and need our parenting class.
Yes.
They even need services beyond that. And that's, where we would be individualizing, services for people at that tier 3 level. But I think one of the things that we've done really well with the book is given parents a way to hone in on academics or hone in on social, emotional, and behavioral. It doesn't have to be all of it at once. It has been called a one-stop shop in terms of everything's kind of in there, and teachers and parents can pull out what they need to use, in the areas that a child's struggling, or in an area that they want to enhance a child. There's all kinds of ideas in the academic world of things that you can do to help support the academic growth of students. So that's one thing that I think would be just worth noting as well.
What I will say is, it's very funny that you landed on social emotional learning. Okay, because I'm going to go back to the school again. You're like, what is going on? Let me tell you something. This group, this school, they do not teach social emotional learning to their students. They actually give it to the adults. So all of the leaders are going through social emotional training, all of that. And I was like, bravo. You know why? Because we've had this conversation before. It is not always meant for the younger ones. It is meant for us. When we got big feelings and we are angry, we put on our angry little goggles, and then we go out and we teach a bunch of little ones, and then all they feel is our energy and our anger, right? And so how do we get by that? How about you help to heal and protect and answer the cries of the adults? Because we do not want to. So what do they say? All things roll downhill. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we think that the social emotional learning is only meant for the little ones, right, and that they're supposed to push that boulder up a larger hill to get to the older ones, right? That's not how that works. If you teach from the highest level and say, okay, I have big feelings and I have these things that are going on. I hate the fact that that person was arrested and he didn't do anything wrong. I hate the fact that my mom just got arrested and she wasn't the one that was touching me, right? So all these different things, and you have a place for them to have conversations about them and say, okay, let's talk about this. It's okay for you to be angry. It's okay for you to be sad. Now healthy adults have the ability to have healthy conversations with little people so that you can continue to build a healthy child. But as long as we continue to say, oh, it's only meant for them. No, there's a lot of us that need some social emotional help. Mm-hmm. Help. We need help. COVID did a lot of damage to a lot of us, all of us, actually. It took something away from us that we didn't. I don't hear anybody really talking about. And those little ones are having a problem. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you're absolutely right. I think that that's something that gets very quickly overlooked. When we were in the throes of COVID, I was serving as an SEL coordinator, and my principal at the time actually said to me, I'm tasking you with the social emotional well-being of our staff in addition to our students, because it's just as important that we're checking in on them as well. So of course, that was something that I have always been very aware of. But I can admit, as an adult and someone with a growth mindset, that since I started teaching SEL about 12 years ago, explicitly teaching it, I have gotten stronger as an adult in my own social emotional learning. I've gotten more social awareness. I have more self-awareness. I have a better understanding of my flaws and where I need to do work. And that's something that, I won't take that for granted for anything. 12 years ago, I didn't know some of the things that I know now that I've learned through teaching SEL to kids. So I couldn't agree with you more that it's needed in all workplaces. All, SEL is critical to all of us. Basic needs, Maslow's basic needs say that we need to feel safe and protected and know where our next meal's coming from and have that trust level. If we can't do that, then where are we expecting to be able to grow from? We've got to be able to meet those basic needs before we ask students to move higher up in their thinking. And same for adults.
I'm talking, you guys are on fire. Ollie, right in time. Thank you so much, sir. We need to also bridge between schools, right? Sharing good practices and letting people feel less alone. Let me tell you something. This school, they did what they did. They understood the assignment. So while I was there, she was like, public schools naturally allow children to isolate. They allow bullying to continue. Let's just be honest. They allow the bullying to continue because you can stop that anytime you're ready. And then and they allow children to isolate. This school does not allow that. You'll never see a child where they're sitting by themselves. And when the CEO told us that, I was like, okay. I'm not gonna lie. I was just like, okay, we'll just wait and see. Cause that's kind of, cause people pay lip service all the time. So you're unsure. Well, while I was there, I didn't say anything. I was just like, cool. I'm glad we like this and whatever. But I seen a couple little people, and they were the littles, not 5, but first, second, third grade. And one of them walked out, and he was bawling, just crying, and the teacher was walking out with them. But I seen a little person run up and stop them and stop to the little one and said, "Are you okay? How can I help you?" Okay. Whoa. Are you serious?
That's incredible.
Everything they told us they were doing, it was actually resonating into the children. So it reverbed right back to us. I walked away saying, why are not all the schools like this? Why are we having children feeling like sitting in a room alone, sitting in a room full of people, feeling so alone, right?
Yeah,
And
I would. Okay, so I have the ability to create the kind of classroom I want to create. I've created that classroom, and I have children that are giving each other hugs. Like they said, how, do you need help? And another student said, yes. Well, that child was watched when the child comes out to me and gives me a big, big hug. He knew that she needed a big hug, and he gave her one of those hugs. You could just see her release. Setting up those classrooms are very important. I was telling Kristen about a story that I have children that as I'm sitting on a chair, they're saying, Mrs. Jones, your back is probably hurting now. Why don't you go ahead and have a seat? Or, I've noticed you sitting in this chair and that chair, and they don't look very comfortable. I have a student coming up and trying to rub my back. So, I mean, just think that my back is hurting. So, I mean, it's that empathy that you're teaching. You're teaching that empathy. I also do role modeling for the students and how to, if I say, if I'm getting frustrated, sometimes I just make up that I'm frustrated. I'm getting frustrated so they can see what that might, sound like. This is what I'm going to do. Or, and then that way you can work through it. I do deep breathing with my students, and I ask them what they need. So another thing is that when we teach self-advocacy, we teach children how to advocate for themselves. In my classroom, you will see children sitting by themselves, but you will hear this first. Mrs. Jones, can I sit by myself because I learn best here? And then they'll ask to be removed away, but it is so because they can't. So I ask them, why are you moving? So is it too loud? Is it because of a focusing issue? And they're not made to stay over there, but they can flex back in because it's their choice in the first place. So I think that part is really important too, that just because you see children sitting in isolation, we have to see what the environment is like and not assume that they are being put there on purpose. Because I had a parent come in and their child said they sat there, and then the other children smirked. And I said, would you like to tell your parents why you're sitting there? So he said, why? They're like, oh, I thought you were in trouble. He was like, no, this is why I'm sitting here. And the next day, because he chose it, and even regardless of what his parents said, he chose that same spot again because he needed it.
That's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's very different. And I'm very happy that I know you to know that your classroom is definitely one of those classrooms that would fit in the school. My whole entire thing is I don't understand why we struggle so hard to provide the environments for our children to be successful within. Why is it that we as the adults need to see our children suffer just to make the point, to make them stronger? Children are resilient. Yes, they bounce. Because remember, when we used to be younger, we bounce up and we'd be back up on, on a skateboard, back up on the skates or whatever we were doing. But when we get older, we don't bounce it. We don't jump right back up so much. We don't get right back up. So why are we testing these kids out like that? That's what I don't understand.
Probably, Chris and I have talked about this before. And Chris, I don't know if you feel comfortable with taking that question because we've discussed it. Do you feel okay with taking that?
Yeah. I want you to repeat it for me though, so I can make sure I heard it right.
I don't understand why are we testing these kids the way we are? We should not. Children are resilient,
Right.
but we should not test them in a way that says we're just going to test them to make them feel one way. But these schools, why are you not empowered enough to be able to provide the right environments for these children to thrive in? Why is it so necessary for them to feel like they have to suffer their way through it as a rite of passage? Because I think that's trash.
Oh, I agree. I think it all goes back to test scores and policymakers that make those decisions. And, unfortunately, it takes it out of the hands of the people on the ground doing all the work, the administrators and educators that are in the school buildings trying to work with those kids that see where the needs are and where the expectation is. And I'm not saying lower expectations in the least, but I'm saying let's meet our kids where they are and grow them and recognize growth rather than test score numbers. One score on one test is not an indicator of whether or not a teacher is successful or not in that classroom. And I don't think that one test score is enough to look at a child and make it some assumption either and say, oh, that child's not going to pass because their test score.
That is true.
If we start giving up on them at that age, that's it.
And I'm going to tell you something too, that teachers, and I'm not saying like I'm not giving teachers a pass, but I talked about this before, the cost analysis. You're like, I don't have time because I have all of this stuff stacked up here. I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to put all of those things in place. But then what they don't realize is that they're putting it on the other side. When you don't plan ahead, you don't plan for success, you actually are planning for failure. So failure has more cost to it. What it has is that the parents are upset. You're like poking that angry hornet's nest. And then administrators, then the parents start poking the administration, and then the administration starts poking you. And then if it's not handled correctly, because it's already a hot mess, it goes to downtown. It also shows up on your evaluation, because then you don't have good classroom management and you're having to upload a lot. So each time that a teacher has, I'm going to say like, I'm just going to go quote unquote behavioral issue, because it's more than that. But each time that a child has troubles, difficulty self-regulating, we'll call it that instead, you have to document, you have to call home, and then you have to follow the proper channels. Did you dot your I's? Did you cross your T's? Now you have a light looking at you. How many of these are happening in your classroom at what time? It becomes very stressful. That little one incident could cost you 45 minutes to have that rapport with the student, to say, I understand what you're going through. How can I help you? How can I support you? What do we need to do? If I take 3 minutes out of my day, and I'm just going to just use that arbitrarily. Sometimes it's longer, but let them know and ask them how they need to be supported. And sometimes it's as easy as that. Sometimes it's taking a walk. There's other things to do, but you don't break bonds and destroy relationships.
But they are doing that.
Yes.
Because honestly, when you look at the school, because the school spends so much time, these teachers spend so much time, so they're overwhelmed. So here's a scenario: send my student to school, send my child to school, and my goal is that when they return back, they're going to be a little bit smarter than when I sent them. That's the expectation. They're going to come back in one piece. I'm gonna need both their shoes, please, and and I want them to be more educated than what I sent them. But what comes back is attitude, irritation, and frustration. But then when you start asking why, then you're looking at, so I'm at home as a parent and I'm worried about, I just lost my job. I don't know how I'm going to feed this kid. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to keep this apartment or house. I don't know what's going on. I filled out 26 job applications and I can't find a job, right? And now I have this student coming back, and guess what? The frustration that he was dealing with all day. So out of 7 hours of the day, he's now dealing with a teacher who is being called in because her reports are not done. She's having to push her way through a curriculum that's not landing. She's having to deal with Johnny in the corner and Mary in the other corner with behavioral challenges, and the parents sending hateful emails to her. And now she's like, and now I have to teach all of you, right? And then you pour that on that child from school, and then the parents are having that struggle, and that struggle may not be as violent as the educational part, because you have to talk, you guys have to talk to the little ones all the time. The parent can say, go do something else, go play in your room, go to your neighbor's house, and then push them off. So now they don't have time. So you have two sides of a child's life that don't have time for them. But guess who has time for them? The streets. So you build frustration in that child, they have no patience. They don't understand what these feelings are about. They're taking ownership of the adult's feelings and not understanding how to process them. And the streets are saying, come on in. We'll feed you. We'll hug you. We'll take care of you. And now you got kids on drugs, kids are in gangs, or kids have joined families that are not their own. And so the wrong community gets to adopt them because both sides of their lives is like full of chaos and frustration. Is that really what we want to be providing to our children? Because is that the reason why some of them don't want to go to school anymore?
It's a good question.
And we've discussed that. And so, Tabitha, I really appreciate that insight that you have with that. And I was taking notes. So I've really never really thought about it like that. I've read a lot on like pipeline to school to prison pipeline. Yep. And it used to be in kindergarten. That is no longer in kindergarten. We're looking at preschool. But when they are not valued in either area because they're both tired and overworked, they do turn to others where they can get their community and be able to have those needs met. And they don't know any better because they don't have anybody telling their lives that, not to do that. And that's how I think, honestly, that's how we're losing our children to the streets too.
And to the drugs and to a lot of this stuff. But that's the reason why I thought it was really important and consistent to say that at the end of the day, if you do not have the right partner to build the healthiest of children, you need to find the school that's going to work with that. You're going to find a community that's going to help support you. And it doesn't have to be the community in which you live. It can actually be, you can build a community around, because my mom used to say to us, if you don't want to talk to me, that's fine. But you need to find somebody to talk to. So I don't know how you're going to do it, but I need you to find somebody who you're going to talk to about it. You can't just continue to not speak to anyone, right? And so it's important to note that for that reason, of course, we still love our teachers, no problem. But at the end of the day, we really do need to find a place for that child to go. Because if all the doors are closed, you have to know they're going to find a door that you do not want them to open. And you're fighting a battle for the rest of your life that is not, for the rest of their life, that's not favorable. How many parents would have made different choices had they known that the school that they were sending their child to was one that was going to get them hooked on heroin, right? You have to think about those. That is the significance of all of this. And so Save Our Kids is about saving our kids, period. It's education. In order for them to be successful, they have to learn how to read and do math. In order for them to be successful, they have to learn how to deal with their feelings. In order for them to be active participants that we want to participate in the society, we have to give them a humane look at how we're supposed to move. And that's what's not happening. And we screwed up. Collectively, it's our generation that has caused what we are currently looking at. And it's our responsibility to call it out and make a change for it, because they're answering us. We did not do right by them. They are answering with the responses that we have today. And that's on us. And we have to make a different decision. We're going to shift a little bit because we're on our way out. Want to go ahead and say Autism Awareness Month is now. Even if you don't think you know somebody with autism, you do. And just because, and it's a lot of it is our environment and things like that. But at the end of the day, those individuals have superpowers that we do not have. I would recommend that we lean into that. But I will say that there are organizations out there that are really doing nothing but taking your money and not applying it to the studies, the science, or the resolution that anybody's looking for. I don't believe my child is wrong. I don't think that he's broken. I don't think there's anything wrong with him. I think he was created the way he was to teach me something that I was missing in my life. I will hope that everybody is thinking the same when it comes to their children, regardless of regardless of the ability that they have that is different from mine. Okay, it's not a disability; it is different from mine. So, pay attention to who you're giving your money to. Autism Speaks. If you look at the numbers, if you look at the information, if you pay attention to what you are looking at, you will learn that only 4% of their money goes to the research and to helping families. So what do you think is happening with the other percent? If only 4% is going to where they're claiming, then how many families are truly being helped? Be careful who you give your money to and make sure that you're building a community around your children. Go ahead, ladies, go ahead and finish out.
I was just going to add with Autism Speaks, one of the other stats that we had talked about beforehand is that, 22% of what they make goes towards fundraising. It's their fundraising budget, but yet only 4% is going back to the families, just for comparison of, thinking about it from that standpoint too. But yes, anything people can do to support and help, people that are on the spectrum. I think in my career, it has gone from 1 in 100 to something to 1 in 36. So this is something that when I was in college, I was told I probably would never experience any cases of autism. I might work with 1 or 2 children in my career. And for the first 5 or 6 years of my career, I did work with 1 child on the spectrum, and that was it. Now, I'm sure there were others that were undiagnosed at the time. However, that huge increase that we are seeing, we need to be paying attention to that, as a society. I think that, 1 in 36 is a scary, scary number. And the fact that it's increasing as fast as it is, we need to be looking at why.
And I'm going to piggyback off of what Kristen has said. So when my daughter, probably about a couple of years before my daughter was diagnosed on the autism spectrum, it was 108 or 107, somewhere in that number. And then what I did is I started, because I like data, so I just started watching that trending, because I was noticing that it was increasing. So it would go to like 97, 98, and then I started to go into like the 60s. You kind of get the idea. So it's trending. And the scary thing is that a lot of these students are not diagnosed because we can only have a certain number of percentage of people on the, like classified as special ed, because they have to keep their numbers. So under a certain point, that's a conversation for probably you, Kristen, for later on, or you, Tabitha, but that's important, or for us to talk about it. But
that's a good contradiction.
Yeah, it is. And so the other thing is that with Autism Speaks, it was my daughter that brought it to my attention, and she read me the history of Autism Speaks. And she said people on the autism spectrum do not support it. And so we were checking out at a local place that had a fundraiser, and I said, has it changed yet? Nope, it has not changed. And I said, okay. And I told the lady there, we were not going to support that because this is what the organization supports. So, and that's, why we weren't going to do it. And the other thing is, it says Autism Awareness Month. That grinds me, because it's a month, and it's not a month. People on the autism spectrum are not employed, and we are looking at numbers increasing. Let's put a finger to our brains, as I tell my students, just for a minute. What does that look like for communities, and how are you going to be able to financially support these individuals and sustain it. And we already have homeless problems in our country, and now we are having a huge uptick with autism. We have to do better. It can no longer be a month. It has to be something that companies and other people put at the forefront, because we are going to be in a crisis, and we don't have to be. We do not have to be in a crisis, because a lot of people on the autism spectrum are gifted in ways that we are not.
And we're not tapping into it correctly.
We're not tapping into it.
Yeah.
And it's very sad.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you say that. So I'm going to tell you why I put Autism Awareness Month. What I do, I recognize that none of these things should be a month. Women's Health Month, Black History Month, all these flipping months. We got 12 months in a year. Let's move on, right? Here's the thing. All history, all day, all the time. It doesn't matter. What I use Autism Awareness Month for is to build a community. So for me personally, they've given us a month to bring up awareness so that we can sort and find our friends, sort and find the people who are like-minded, who want to join a community. We have new families getting their diagnosis on a regular basis who don't know where to go. So it's a terrible way to narrow down this field, but it's a very good opportunity for us to invite others to come and join us during this month, where we can bang the drums and talk about this stuff and go ahead and invite them in. So my hope is that we bring enough people in to actually say, okay, great, this is I would like to join your community because I like what you have going on. And I hope that they just come and find us and know that we look at this 365 days a year and 24 hours out of 24 hours a day. There is no let up on this. So if you send me money, I honestly do not like these things where they only feed you during the holidays, because I think 363 other days out of the year, people are hungry too. It can't just be during those holiday seasons to make people feel better. So just be mindful of how we do things, I think, because we are the living example for our children to follow. And if what we are seeing out in the world right now is what we have put out there, shame on all of us, because we are very unhappy with some of the stuff that's happening out there. So as we wrap up, I thank you ladies for coming to join us. Remember to coming to join me for this hour. Remember, friends, go ahead, buy your copy. Scan that QR code. It's going to Amazon. Go ahead and buy your copy of Bridging the Educational Gap. Kristen and Christine, you've done a wonderful job in presenting everything in front of people so that they can see that they have options, and they do not have to pick and stay with what has been told to them. If you don't like the result, as you don't, what did he say? He was like, what you put in is what you get out. Mm-hmm. You understand? Mm-hmm. So at any given point in time, when you're ready to make a change, you can make that change. You cannot ask for something. If you have trash in, you are guaranteed trash out. It may smell different and be a little bit more fragrant and perfume-like, but it's still trash. Be careful what you ask for, right? So thank you all for joining us. Thanks, Phil, Helpopedia, Sharon, and Ali, all of the people who came to visit us and spend their time with us. I hope you've gotten something out of it. Please remember to go ahead and what did I say? I lost it. Scan or like to follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it. And until next time, remember, please use your words wisely, because they have power. Have a great one. Oh, wait, maybe not. I don't know where the thing is. Man, being on a laptop is just driving me crazy. I don't know about this one. Till next time. Later, guys.
Thank you for your time today. We appreciate the support and look forward to you visiting us again next week. Same time, same place. Until then, words are power. Please remember to use them wisely. If you have an interest, like to be on our live show, please let us know and send us a direct message.